Perfect. Thank you. Well, hi everyone. Thank you for coming. As Lawrence said, this is going to be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube. So if there's anything you missed or you want to send to a coworker or a friend at another agency, please feel free to do so. But we'll go ahead and get started. So this presentation obviously is what is Advocacy Day. And we're going to be getting into what is advocacy, debunking some of the myths around advocacy, talking about the rules of engagement, when and why we advocate. And then, of course, I'll be talking about CalCAPA Advocacy Day. That's the main purpose of this, but we're also going to talk a little bit about NCAF Fly-In Week and just the opportunities there to really showcase your agency and practice advocating to federal legislators. So what is advocacy? It's a question I get a lot. Our definition for the moment is activities aimed at promoting awareness, education, and policy changes for a cause. Our cause obviously is community action more broadly. It's, policy causes that affect low-income communities. And as community action leaders, you are the subject matter experts. So when a legislator has a question about how a program's working or what the needs are in the community, that's where you all come in as those experts to help educate legislators on where best to spend dollars, where best to, add new programs and things like that. Everyone can advocate, and I know that's a common misconception. There are different rules for public agencies and 501(c)(3)s, so we'll get into those a little bit in a second. First and foremost, I just want to say that advocacy is not the same as lobbying. I use this analogy, a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. There are really specific parameters required for it to be considered lobbying. But more broadly, advocacy is public education, raising awareness, and coalition building. One myth that we hear a lot is that public agencies can't participate in advocacy. But the truth is, public agencies can and should participate in advocacy. As we all know, the First Amendment of the Constitution gives us this right. But of course, there are different rules, and there are some more specific rules for public agencies to make sure they aren't crossing over into the lines of lobbying. So we'll get into those here. So while all of our agencies can engage in advocacy, we can't use our federal CSBG dollars to do so, to lobby officials. So 501(c)(3)s, like we said, they have some more leniency. They can participate in some limited lobbying activities, and they can educate voters during political campaigns, but they can't support, a specific candidate in those campaigns. For a public agency, things are a lot more stringent. You cannot participate in any campaign activities, any sort of things that are on the ballot. You can't ask them to vote yes for, last year we had HR 3131. You can't tell your Congress member, vote yes on this measure. But they can tell their Congress member what the impacts of HR 3131 would have on their agencies. And obviously, last year we know that that would have a lot of positive impacts on our agencies. So public agencies can provide accurate, fair, and impartial presentation of relevant facts about ballot measures to voters, to legislators, to the community, as long as they aren't, crossing that line that says vote for or support this specific measure. And of course, our guidance is always to check with your local county offices. These are the overall rules of engagement, but your local office might offer different rules and have different processes for your advocacy efforts. I know some public agencies have county offices that specifically work on advocacy for their entire county. So maybe you work with them, get us in contact with them. And if your county tells you that you cannot participate in any advocacy activities, please let us know. We'd like to be able to fill in those gaps. And, if you can't meet with the legislator, maybe we can. So that's all I have for that side of things. Are there any questions before we move on? Okay, great. So when and why do we advocate? Lawrence and I were talking about this morning, actually, kind of similar to donor engagement. If you had private funders, advocacy is always ongoing, and consistent public engagement is necessary for maximum impact. But thankfully, CalCAPA and NCAF and some other folks do host specific advocacy days, fly-in weeks, conferences, etc., for you to practice these advocacy skills and to specifically plan meetings with legislators as a network. And advocacy is necessary to meet your mission and help your organization survive and thrive. As we all know, our network is pulled together by CSBG funds, which are federal funds. So when we are talking to legislators, we're really talking to our funders. This is a schedule of events, just so you all know, of some of those upcoming trainings to help you prepare for these two advocacy opportunities coming up. Another one is LIHEAP Action Day that isn't on here. I know Head Start has some stuff coming up, food bank associations. So really any time that you can practice your advocacy skills, we highly encourage you to do so. These are just some of the opportunities we have. And of course, we're hoping these meetings will help prepare for NCAF fly-in and our own advocacy day. So if you couldn't make it this time, hopefully you can come to another one. To talk more just about NCAF Flying Week really quick, it's March 17th through 20th. It's in Washington, D.C., and the costs are on the screen, $575 for the first person and $300 every person after that. This was a photo from some of the folks who went last year, meeting with Rep. David Valadeo, who actually recently signed on to our letter to Vice President J.D. Vance. So thank him for doing that. And the registration link is there as well if you're interested. The purpose of NCAF Flying Week is to educate federal legislators and their staff about the breadth and impact of community action to build long-lasting collaborative relationships and strengthen opportunities for the network. So community action agencies should be known as a resource for the representative constituents. If a constituent calls their office and has a problem or a question, they should be able to refer them to you guys and know that they can do that. So that's one of the main things of NCAF Fly-In Week. And like I said, federal legislators are our funders for a lot of our programs. So when you're talking to legislators, it's kind of the same sort of idea. This is just a timeline of events for NCAF Fly-In Week if this is something you're interested in. There are sort of designated areas for you to schedule those legislative meetings and attend those. But you probably want to schedule these about a month in advance. I think one of the slides previously said probably by mid-February you want to have all of these scheduled, but it's never too late. If it's the week of and you want to send them, you can. You just might not get a response. So I'll get into that more when we talk about how to schedule meetings with legislators. But there are some other educational topics too. So if advocacy and politics is something you're interested in, this is a great opportunity to learn more about that as well. Who should you bring? This is a really big question we get for both NCAF and Advocacy Day. For NCAF, the group's a little bit smaller than what you would maybe bring for CalCAPA Advocacy Day. For NCAF, it's really the community action leaders, whether that's the executives, the board members, or the overall CSBG program managers. These are really high-level meetings, and you don't want to overrun any of them with too many voices in the room. So we're really encouraged to keep these groups a little bit smaller compared to what we would encourage for CalCAPA's own Advocacy Day. And like I already promoted, we do have how to prepare meetings with legislators. We have a few different trainings coming up. We have how to schedule meetings, and then we also have this training on February 11th, which will be dedicated to developing a binder specifically for NCAF's Fly-In Week. So if you or anyone from your agency is planning to attend NCAF Fly-In Week, we highly recommend you attend this so you can learn more about the national priorities and how to schedule and plan and really learn more about the person you're meeting with to make sure those meetings go effectively. Now we'll get into CalCAPA's Advocacy Day. So as you probably know, it's been rescheduled. So the new date is May 14th for Advocacy Day, which is great because that coincides with Community Action Month and a lot of other important things. May 14th is also the day for the governor's May revision. So we'll be a little bit further along into the state policy process than in years past, which will help us, be more aware of the bills in the current cycle, as well as the governor's priorities for the budget. Um, we this year are including a pre-advocacy day training on the day before. So as you might remember last year, we had a CSP meeting and a cocktail hour on the day before. We're expanding that to include the CSP meeting, lunch, and 3 training sessions on 2 different tracks, so 6 total trainings on the day before, as well as the cocktail hour. So we'll have a track for new advocates and a track for experienced advocates. The new advocates track including sessions like how the state government works, planning for your legislative meeting, and creating your community action pitch, and opportunities for experienced advocates being just more roundtables on the 2026 state policy landscape, how to turn legislative meetings into long-term relationships, and then an executive director and board of directors roundtable as well to just talk all about all of the planning and all of the advocacy related topics in a group in person. So the cost for this is $199 for 2 people and then $25 per person per day after. So to explain this, I did an example. One agency already asked this question, so I wanted to make sure that it was really clear. So let's say your agency is bringing its executive director, board members, 3 staff, and 6 volunteers and clients to CalCAPA's Advocacy Day. The executive director and the board members are planning to attend both days. So they're going to the sessions, they're going to the CSP meeting, they're going to the cocktail hour. But everyone else, the staff, volunteers, clients, are only attending Thursday. Your registration would be $199 for 2 people. So let's say that's your executive director and this board member. And then 3 $50 registrations, which covers 3 people for both days, and then 9 $25 registrations, which covers those 9 people for Thursday. So the total registration being under $600, which for this many people, that's about the cost of one conference ticket for a lot of other conferences. So we tried to make this really affordable and so that you could bring as many folks up as you wanted to. This $25 for the day of really just covers the cost of lunch for those individuals. So we want to make sure that's open. Lunch is open as well. If you want to invite, a staffer or whoever to lunch, you can do that. But we're hoping that those costs cover everything there. The purpose of our Advocacy Day compared to NCAF's is to educate state level stakeholders. So yes, that's state legislators, like in NCAF, that's federal legislators, but we also want to extend this to the broader state level stakeholders. So that being the general public, that being agency staff from executive agencies like CSD, like Department of Transportation, other associations like the Cal Food Banks Association, Head Start California, all of those things, to help educate all of our stakeholders and all of our partners about the breadth and impact of community action to build those lasting collaborative relationships again. So when legislators are developing new programs, our network should be top of mind. When other networks from associations are thinking about partnering with other CBOs in their area, our network should be top of mind. Just really promoting what our network can do in our local communities. So we wanted this to be sort of 2 parts, agency capacity building and offering this opportunity to advocate. These training sessions hopefully will help staff or board members learn the best practices to advocate, learn more about this year's current funding and policy landscapes, and offer networking opportunities. And at the same time, you can attend all these meetings with your legislators, with agencies, and practice advocating for the community. This is our timeline of events, so we plan on hosting, like I said, that CSP meeting at 10 a.m. on May 13th, going into lunch, and then the 3 training sessions, and eventually that cocktail hour will be right after that as well. And then this is the tentative schedule for May 14th, which is kicking off at 10 a.m. on the Capitol West steps, just like last year. It'll be a little warmer this year, so we'll make sure to have a lot of shade available, hopefully less wind so our signs won't fall over. But that's kind of our schedule for the week, or for the 2 days. We really encourage you to schedule legislative meetings whenever it's best for you, but we did include some specific times that you could schedule those that you wouldn't miss other programming as well. So we're hoping you guys can take advantage of that. Who should you bring? Like I said, This, for our Advocacy Day, we want to extend this to as many people as we can. So that is your agency leadership, your agency's board, staff members who are interested in advocacy, whether that's your specific advocacy and government relations staff. Maybe it's your communications and PR staff. I know a lot of young professionals who are really interested in the advocacy work that we do. Your community action volunteers and clients. Maybe you have a client with really great story that you'd like to bring up, to bring to your meetings with legislators, or to stand at your booth and talk to passerbyers about the importance of your program to their life. And then, of course, partners and subgrantees. So if you're a public agency, and maybe you do have some more lines that you can't cross when it comes to lobbying, maybe you bring your subgrantees who are 501c3s, who can do some more of that work. Especially if you do operate a lot of subcontracts, bringing those subgrantees who have the program level knowledge can be really important. I wanted to talk a little bit about how to set up your booth for Advocacy Day because we do get some questions around this. This really isn't necessarily a booth that you'd set up like in your local community where you're trying to get clients. This is more of a public-facing sort of PR booth. So we'll provide the tent and table unless you have a branded tent that you'd like to set up. And we really encourage you to just bring signage to increase visibility, whether that's the Huggy Heart or whatever your logo is. And maybe one centerpiece displaying, data, or a poster displaying, what your annual report cover looked like or something like that. If you want to have handouts with your program's impact or anything like that, that's totally recommend that, especially for those meetings with legislators. But keeping in mind that the audience are going to be staffers, partner associations, local Sacramento community members, and not necessarily people in your district looking for services. Yes, Sherry, go ahead.
Jillian, is there going to be an extra cost for the booth?
No, so that's included in the
That's
$199 cost.
I
Yep.
just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Of course. And again, on the same day, February 11th, when we're talking about the NCAF binder, we're also going to talk about the CalCAPA Advocacy Day binder. Two separate binders because the priorities of the 2 days are a little different, but a lot of the same ideas and content. And once you get one down, you'll be able to get the other one down pretty easily as well. So that template and toolkit will be provided as well. You'll have a lot more time to prepare this one than the NCAF one if you choose to do the NCAF one. But hopefully that will be helpful. Like I said, it's most of the template, the personalization of it is for your specific meetings when you have those scheduled and you're trying to learn more about the priorities of the member and how your agency can sort of meet those priorities. So some action items to take from today. First, obviously, we'd love for you to register for CalCAPA's Advocacy Day. Maybe you need to determine who to bring from your agency, but we included that link here, and these slides will go out to everyone. I'm sure you've gotten the link in many other communications as well at this point. But please contact Jordan if you have any specific registration questions. I can always help with that, but Jordan is our registration guru, so they'll probably be forwarded to her anyways if you contact me. If you want, of course, to register for those advocacy afternoon sessions, those are all coming up. Like I said, how to schedule meetings with legislators. That's really sort of an in-depth look at our CalCAPA Connect app and how to find the right contacts, crafting your message. If you don't know, if you've never scheduled a meeting and you don't know, hey, do I send an email? Do I send a letter? As well as, coming from different angles if you've never met the legislator or if you have a really great relationship with the legislator, how to approach those asks. And then secondly, like I said, planning your legislative meetings, already talked about that. And then lastly, telling your agency's story. This one's really focused not only on telling your agency story to legislators, but telling your agency story in general. So whether that's funders, legislators, the community, if you're trying to recruit new board members, you're trying to recruit new staff members, you're onboarding new staff members, just really learning and talking about how to tell your agency story. Next, begin thinking about and planning for Advocacy Day. If you have materials that you want to prep for your booth, if you want to start developing that advocacy binder, And then thinking about what partners you could invite that would benefit from joining Advocacy Day. Maybe you're part of other statewide coalitions or associations and you think they'd be a good fit at joining our Advocacy Day. Send me a message and let me know. I'd be happy to send over our save the date and we're requesting other associations and coalitions to submit any policy priorities they'd like our network to consider as well. So we have that. And then email us with questions if you need help with a specific legislator developing strategy, or if you need help developing those materials for your Advocacy Day booth. You don't know, you have a lot of data and you don't know, how best to use it or, how to frame it for legislators. And then if you need any help engaging your board members or your agency leaders in advocacy. I know Lawrence does a lot of board roles and responsibilities trainings, and he's more than happy, and I'm more than happy to talk to your boards as well about the importance of advocacy. Um, that's all. Oh, wait, other than that, materials to expect from me. Like I said, those binder templates are coming out. We have a save the date that came out today, so check your emails for that. I'll be sending out an Advocacy Day FAQs coming up. I've been getting some questions, so I want to make sure everyone's on the same page. I'm gonna send out a flyer about debunking those advocacy engagement myths. And then eventually we'll provide our Advocacy Day asks for legislators that will be much, much closer to Advocacy Day. Sort of in response to the question, when a legislator asks you, what can I do for you? We're going to try and provide you with materials so that you can better answer that question, especially if you are a public agency who can't make those specific policy asks. What can you ask of your legislator? So we'll make sure to provide some resources there, as well as usual, our statewide community action, impact, and data handouts. I've linked our CalCAPA Connect app here, as well as our link to submit any California bills of interest that you're tracking this year. And if there's anything else that would be helpful, any materials, any statewide data information, please let me know. I'm more than happy to develop whatever would be helpful for you all. So that's all. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, if not, I'll let you guys have 5 minutes back, but I'm happy to answer all questions you guys have.
Thank you, Jillian.
First.
And
Thanks,
Jillian,
Jillian.
I'll note that I dropped the links to those upcoming training in the chat. So anybody who wants to register there can do that. And I noticed that you put the links in the deck, so that'll be available to all watching the recording.
Lawrence, you'll also send out emails on those as they come up, right?
Yeah, the email addresses that are on the page here, is that what you're talking about, Sherry?
No, 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 no. As a reminder to people, you'll send out an email to like you did for today.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Got our communications dialed in at CalCAPA. Thanks, Sherry.
All right, well, I will let you all go. If you have any questions, please don't feel shy to send them my way. And I hope to see you all at Advocacy Day. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.